Hello and welcome everyone to today's Mindset X Factor podcast. For this one, I'm especially excited because as our guest today, I've got a very old and close friend of mine, Jason Wright. Jason, thank you so much for joining me today.
Morning, Raynor. Good to see you again. How are you doing?
Yeah, good. All the better for seeing you, bud.
You're too kind.
As I mentioned, obviously, we're old friends. I think the first time we met was probably the year after Y2K, so the year 2000. We survived the Y2K scare because that's when we started high school all those years ago in 2000. And do you remember the day that we met? Can you remember that far back?
I think I do actually. You were that awkward, not sure where to be kind of guy. It's like a deer caught in headlights the day I saw you. It was just, it's like your eyes had opened for the first time, and there were all these people and all this chaos and busyness, and you got dropped into Edgemead of all places. And I don't know how that happened,
Yeah.
but I'm glad it did. But yeah,
Let me
I
give some
I
context to
remember
that
seeing you,
story
and
though,
my
as
small
well,
group of friends that I had we were
because
all
what
misfits.
happened was,
Um, we didn't quite fit in anywhere, but we fitted in amongst ourselves.
yeah.
And when I laid eyes on you, I knew you had to join the group of uh, of crazies.
Yeah,
But no, all jokes aside, I remember it very fondly, of course.
yeah. Um, Let me give some context to the deer in the headlights reaction that I had because obviously it was halfway during the year. I think I came the beginning of the third term, so it was like smack bang halfway during the year. So like obviously I was this new dude coming in. I remember walking into the class. I can't. What do they call it? Like class register or something. That first class of the day
Yes.
where they made off and made sure we were there. And I walked in. I can't remember who our teacher was at that point, but all I remember was she said, "Who wants to show this guy around?" And it's just like silence. And I was like, this is so awkward until you eventually put your hand up and took me under your wing, as it were, to show me around. And well, you would have known that that was the start of the friendship all those years later, being
Time flies,
involved in
man.
each other's lives. So it's been great. Yeah. So I remember that. Yeah, as you say, fun. Maybe not as fondly as you, because I do remember the fear and anxiety that I had as well at that time.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
But it was. I'm very glad that you put your hand up that day because, yeah, obviously we've created a good friendship, and our whole group of friends, in fact, that we made at high school,
Absolutely.
we've stayed close, which has been great.
Yeah.
So Jason, obviously the reason why I also want to chat to you is, at least now the viewers know and the listeners know why we know each other so well, and if there are some dad jokes going on through here, they'll understand why. Because that's just who we are, and we're allowed to do dad jokes. We've got the license. We're both fathers now, but maybe you can give us a little bit of an introduction as to who you are as Jason Wright, so the listeners and the viewers can know who this dude with the ugly mug is that I have on here today.
I certainly have a lot less hair than you have now, and I never thought that was going to be the case growing up. But anyway, I'm coming to terms with that, or I've actually come to terms with that. But no, I'll be 40 this year in August. I live out on the West Coast in a small fishing town called Azefontein, which has grown massively over the last couple of years. Prior to doing what I do now, which I'll get into in a minute, I was the golf director at Arabella Golf Club. I worked there for 7 years. I started out working in the pro shop, folding clothing and checking in golfers, and over the years worked my way up to golf director. Probably about 9 or 10 years ago, I got an opportunity to create something for myself. I had all the years of managing Arabella and big budgets and different personalities, and gained a lot of business experience and acumen, which all led me down to the path of starting my own business. So the Jason Wright now is someone who over the years has worked and developed on trying to become, I guess, business minded and most importantly, being self-employed. And that's where we are today. I have two children. I have a beautiful wife whom I met in school, and you know quite well. And yeah, so I've been self-employed, running my own business. I make alcohol. I don't necessarily drink everything I make, but
Little
which is a good thing.
disclaimer there.
Yeah, absolutely. I try to keep the profits in the business, but no, so yeah, I have this beautiful business which is called Wright's Distillery. When we started, roughly nearly 6 years ago, we opened up as Wright's Gin, and we saw a little gap in the market at the time where gin production was on the rise. And I was fortunate enough to have the opportunity to open this business. And over the years, we've branched out and grown a little bit. So the name Wright's Gin is now morphing into Wright's Distillery because we don't just produce gin. But that is who I am essentially. Is I'm a businessman. More importantly, I'm a father, I'm a husband. And I do what I do so that I can spend more time with my family as opposed to what I did previously where I didn't have that flexibility and freedom.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for sharing that, Jay. Obviously, I always know you as being such a good guy and a good friend, a good person. And I know you're a good father and a good husband. I look at, I obviously know Claire from for a long time as well, from when you started dating back in high school. And I've obviously been very lucky to land a beautiful wife myself, and I just keep thinking, how did we get so lucky? How did we trick these poor girls into saying yes to us? you know
You're funny.
but you have a wonderful family, a wonderful wife, and I couldn't be more happy for you.
Thank you,
But
man.
So let's talk about it. Thank you for that. You've given us sort of where you've been and so on. I want to talk about obviously the start of your life journey in your career and so on. As you mentioned, you're at one of the biggest and most well-known golf courses in South Africa. I had the privilege of playing there a couple of times while you were the director of golf, and it was obviously it's a wonderful place. What was your experience like there? What did you take away from that? Did you enjoy it? What was
Yeah,
your yeah.
it was one of the most beautiful times of my life. I met some amazing people, but the one thing that really stands out for me is the mentor that I met. And it's something that I've tried to carry on since leaving Arabella is, if you find someone that's within your circle that is ambitious or shows promise or is hungry to learn, it's so important that we, as mentors, pass on what we've learned from those that have taught us. So the biggest thing I take away is probably the amount of knowledge that was passed on to me and the amount of time that was put into me by my then boss, which was Jonathan Menteith. So without him, I probably wouldn't be where I am today and do what I do only because of what he invested into me, which didn't cost money, but it was his time and knowledge. That when he left Arabella, I was the natural replacement, and he did everything he could to make sure I took his spot, which I did. And not only that I would have the confidence to, carry on from what he did and make sure that I wasn't going to be left out in the deep end. So that's a big thing. And something I think in business that not everyone gets the opportunity to learn from a really strong mentor, where some bosses, directors, for the lack of a better word, maybe don't put that time back into their people. So that stands out. And then obviously living on the golf estate was special. Being in a position where my wife didn't have to work, so I could financially support my family. But the drawback of all of that is that I worked very hard, and I worked 6 days a week and sometimes 12 hours a day. And there were days that I didn't see my daughter in the morning because I left the house before she got up. And And at that time, she was 1 year old, and I would arrive home, and it would be 7, 8 at night, and she'd be in bed. And those were the real drawbacks. So whilst I got to live a lifestyle that was really special and good and great, I missed out on being a father and a husband to a young family at a time where I was pulled in so many different directions. And that's why when starting my business, I could start it with a very clear goal in mind that, it's not just to be successful in the business, but it's to make the business work for me, that I have a better lifestyle, and really prioritize what's important. Because I think we get stuck in climbing the corporate ladder, and we have to work, and we have to work harder, and we have to get up earlier, and we have to, go to bed later. And for me personally, I felt I was sold a little bit of a lie. It's not to say that those things aren't important, but I've just tried to place more priority on family, and how do I incorporate my family into my business, that they're more a part of the business without having to separate, when I see my family and when I don't, if that makes any sense.
No, it does. It makes perfect sense because I love what you shared there because it was great because, there are obviously those, uh, those people in our lives that make that sort of impact, as you said, Jonathan did with you.
Mm,
And it's one of the things that we always try to say is that leaders create other leaders. So they try to sort of pass on and hopefully have someone like that. I guess the technical term would be to have a succession plan in place to make sure that
mm,
there's someone to take over from you because you're not going to be there forever. I mean, you don't
of
want all
course.
the hard work you've put in to go to waste and go backwards, but you want a continuation, but obviously, hopefully, develop the person so that they can take over and make it better than what you left it as well. So it's, and as you say, we need to learn from that example as well and do the same with others that are placed in our care and that we're responsible for. So I really
Mm,
love that. But yeah, as you said, it was a very comfortable lifestyle that you had. I mean, you were able to provide for your family a lovely lifestyle. I mean, I visited you at your home. You had a lovely home there on the golf course, a lovely view, and everything else. But as you said, you made the decision to start your own business, and part of that decision was obviously so that you could spend more time with your family, right? Was that like the biggest
thanks,
draw
man.
for you in that decision?
Yeah, I mean, the number one, I knew that there was a financial cap to the industry that I was in. Um, and I know that with everything that I've learnt and all the knowledge that I have and the experience that I gained through managing the the, the business side of Arabella Golf Club, um, I'm making a ton of money for other people, essentially. And I can apply those same principles and values and knowledge and expertise into something that I'm passionate about, and something that I can grow. And in doing so, my financial cap broadens. I'm not really stuck at a certain place. It can be as big as I want it to be, essentially. So I'm not to say that money was a factor, but it's certainly something I was aware of, that I didn't want to be stuck in one industry for the rest of my life. Um, I wanted to have that freedom and flexibility, and one, I guess, byproduct of that is, the ability to provide a better life for my family further down the line.
Yeah.
So yeah, money was one part, but it certainly, it wasn't the main reason. And I would also say, if it wasn't for Claire, my wife, I would not be self-employed. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing, because she's the one that gave me the confidence, um, and nudged me and forced me into the direction. Say, you can do this. We can do this. So behind every strong man is an even stronger woman, as I say.
Good. No, and I can sort of vouch for that fact because obviously I know Claire, and I know that she, that she would be that type of support and to push you and to help you with that decision because I'm sure it wasn't an easy decision to make. I'm sure it was quite a scary decision because I know there's many people that are in sort of the same boat that you're in, that are in this comfortable lifestyle, guaranteed paycheck at the end of the month, every month.
Hmm.
Now you have to go off on yourself, and that guarantee of the paycheck isn't there. The security isn't there. It's quite a daunting thing, and decision to make. So I'm sure your experience was that it's quite scary, but again, what was that experience like? How easy was it to make that decision? And um, I know you shared a little bit about how you were able to make that decision, but maybe can you share that experience a little bit in a bit more detail for us?
I guess it's just for me. It's almost knowing that I'm gonna have good days and I'm gonna have bad days, and those days that are going to be bad, I'm going to have to remind myself of this time where I told myself I'm going to have these bad days, and know that, nothing lasts forever and we'll get through it, good or bad. I'm also very fortunate that I have a very strong and family around me. I have a good support structure. So that's almost something that I was able to lean back on, and know that I have that sort of security behind me, where not everyone has that. There might be some people that are completely isolated or on their own, and they have to make these decisions. So I guess you could say I'm a little bit more privileged in that sense, that I had that safety net to fall back on. But really, as I'm getting older, I'm realizing that, and this is my own personal feeling and opinion, I'm realizing that life really is so short. And I know it's a cliche, and we all say it. But the older I get, the more I realize that no matter what happens in life, big or small, at the end of the day, it really is irrelevant when you pass. Whatever goes on, because we're only here for a short time. And when we do go and we leave and we lie on our deathbed one day, I'm sure the overriding thing I'm going to look back on is not my success or what I've done, but it's my love, it's my connection, it's the people. And I'm certainly not going to fret or worry about the small little things that I thought were important or big or whatever the case is. So I think the point I'm trying to make is that if there's something you want to do and you have the confidence to do it, and you can do it, and it's the fear that's holding you back, that fear really shouldn't be that big, because it's not important, or at least it won't be in years to come. And I guess the older you get, the more confidence that you have, and the realization that you have that nothing is permanent and nothing is as serious as we make it out to be.
Well, it's I love what you said there. Is that fear? I don't know if you've ever heard the acronym for fear. That false evidence appearing real. It's all like up
No.
in our heads, and that's so this fear normally is generated in our minds, and it created in our minds, and so we fill ourselves with all these doubts, like what happens if I fail? What
Mm,
happens if I don't make it? What happens if this isn't the plan I'm supposed to have for my life? What happens if this
mm,
isn't my destiny or my fate? Or all these sort of doubts that we fill our minds with, and if we don't have enough confidence, as you shared, or belief in ourselves, then that fear overrides us and stops us from
mm,
making those decisions. Um, and I know I've always known you, and I've always known you to be quite a confident person, Jay. So it doesn't surprise me that you made this decision, but um, so I'm going to give you your props where they're due, because not everyone has that confidence to make
mm,
that decision. No, so many people who are older than you, as you were mentioning, old maybe age brings that confidence, and I think in some cases it does. But in a lot of
yeah,
cases, it doesn't, because I see people who are so entrenched in this comfort zone, as it were, because that's
yeah,
essentially what it's this comfortable place that we're in, the security of having this paycheck every month, but then also we're in the trap, or in the confines of having to work so many hours a day, being at someone
mm,
else's call, and not having that freedom and that flexibility to actually live our own lives. And
yeah.
so many people are too scared to make that leap, because that fear will always be there. I mean, you had experienced that fear, I'm sure.
Oh, of course. I mean,
And
I still do, and you have to suppress it. Sorry to
yeah,
interrupt.
no,
Mm,
no, and that's fine. And I mean, it's obviously that's what courage is. It's not the absence of fear; it's the overcoming that
no.
fear, right?
Mm,
The everyone who's been successful, we'd think of all these successful, the Sir Richard Bransons, and the
mm,
Warren Buffetts, and all these people that we can think of that have tons of money. They they surely experience fear, but they had the belief to overcome that. And that's
Yeah.
essentially what I'm saying, is that I'm giving you your props because you had the belief and the confidence to overcome that fear that you experienced.
Yeah.
So well done, man. I'm very proud of
Thank
you.
you. Yeah, I appreciate that. And it's like, they also say fake it till you make it. And uh, the context I take out of that is almost like when you're having those days where you're down on yourself, or, I didn't get that listing, or I didn't get that meeting, in the early days, and I'd get a little bit down and despondent. The fake it till you make it is really just convincing yourself that, well, I'll try a little bit harder. I will get up a little bit earlier, or, I will change what I'm doing, or maybe I'll change the way I write the email. That's kind of what I mean by, rather than just throwing in the towel, oh, this is not working, give up and off we go. Something that was actually asked of me before we started this business by my father-in-law, and he said to me, what's your plan B? What happens if this doesn't work? So my response was, I'll make it work. He said, well, that you can't do that. And I said, well, I will. I will work a little bit harder. If things aren't working, I'll analyze it and see why it's not working, and I'll make changes to make it work. Because at the end of the day, if we're honest with ourselves, the average person, average people, um, lazy, don't work hard. And a lot of business owners can have a successful business by
Yeah.
putting in minimal effort. Or at least, I mean, there's some level of effort, obviously, that you have to put in. But the point I'm making is if your business is not working or something's not happening, and you just put in 10% more effort than someone else within your industry, over time, there's a very good chance that you're going to be successful. And you're probably going to be a lot more successful than that person. So the point I'm making is that if we just put in a little bit more effort than the average person, there's no reason you shouldn't succeed, no matter
Yeah.
who you are or what line of business you're in.
You know,
So
I
I hold on to that a bit.
yeah, and I couldn't agree more because yeah, when you speak of your father-in-law, Uncle Dennis, Uncle D, as we affectionately called him,
Of
yeah, and
course.
I can understand his concerns, obviously, because he really cares about you guys and so on. So those concerns obviously are valid. But I think
Of course.
you were so invested in this idea that you wholeheartedly wanted to make it work, and I think that's fantastic. You have to have that sort of desire and that motivation to
Mm.
want to make it work because uh, and I'll come back to what you spoke about after that, about that you can say it's almost that consistency and that discipline to keep at it every single day a little bit better each day. I'll come back to that, but um it's that knowing that you want to make it work, and that having that sort of that I can't think of the correct word right now, but that desire and that want and so on. But let me ask you this. When you made that decision, and making the decision to start your business is probably one of the hardest steps to make, but it's not the only step that you have to make. Because I can imagine when you made that decision, and in fact, I know the answer to this because obviously we've spoken about your journey on a few occasions, but when you made the decision to start, okay, now so now everything starts. You start getting the business together. You start doing the usual stuff of trying to think what to call it, what's the desires to do. Obviously, being a gin distillery, you have to work on the recipes for your gin and all those sort of things. So there's a lot of things that come into it. Was it all plain sailing after that? Had you made it once you made that decision to start your own business? What was
So
the that like?
you go through so many ebbs and flows. Like when we first started, I thought like, that's it, we've made it. Like before we even open the business, you just think like, we're gonna have this business and we're gonna be well known and we're gonna like make the best liquor, and you have all these grand ideas of how you see this thing panning out. And then a little bit of time passes, and you come across a few stumbling blocks and things get a little bit tricky and tough, and then suddenly you feel like a failure and you think, oh, this is not working, and are we ever going to be successful? And all sorts of other things tend to happen. um Sorry, what what was your actual question?
So I was asking, and that's fine.
Sorry.
We were talking about what it was like at the beginning. Was it all hunky dory, plain
Okay.
sailing, or what was it like at the beginning?
You know, the beginning is probably where most of the hard work actually comes in, because everything is design concepts. And I must also just say before I carry on that, this business was not just built by myself. There are many
Yeah.
family members around me that have contributed um, to the business and made it what it is. My sister on the design side, um, my wife Claire also on the design side and operationally helping out. The first couple of years was very slow. A lot of money spent, a lot of lessons learned, a lot of money wasted. Um, in a position where foot traffic was very low, and because of that, there wasn't a lot of people coming through the door. So we were having to really fight for business and try to get that business. And it was
And
really
I think
tough. The
it's
first few
important
years
to
there.
say, yeah, so I think it's important for us to note that you started this business during COVID as well. So the reason why you had the slow foot traffic and all those sort of things, you started at a time where I think a lot of business experts would say it's probably not the best time to start a business, right?
So we actually started the business early 2019. We unfortunately, or fortunately, whichever way you look at it, we got our liquor license was granted when COVID hit. So we opened our doors in June of 2020. It's when we officially started trading. And I think COVID was it around March 2020, something like that.
Yeah,
So
that's
it
when the
just it
lockdown
just
announced.
yeah. So it just so happened that our license was issued and COVID came about after we were in the initial design stages of setting up
Yeah.
the business. And it's like when we were ready to hit the ground running, boom, COVID came. And it's like, take that. um, and that was very difficult in itself. Although again, I go back to, I had my family to help support, and I stayed with my dad in Eswinton for a short period. So I was very fortunate there. But what I also wanted to mention is that the success of the business has not just been on my shoulders alone. So my sister has been heavily involved on the design side of things, and that was right from the beginning, in 2020, and even more so now, becoming more involved in the business. Claire's involved operationally. In fact, she's actually just gone off to work. I'm going to have to follow in a few minutes, but yeah, my wife Claire's involved in the business, and there's so much that she does day to day, and also on the design side of things. And in the beginning, a lot of it was me, with the recipes and maybe some of the designs and putting things together. But as the business is growing, there's no ways I'd be able to do everything on my own, because, as you know, one-man band business, it won't have legs, because there's
Yeah.
just way too much for any one person to try and take on themselves. But yeah, the first couple of years were very tough. There were months where I wasn't able to pay myself a salary. And, then that goes back to those days where you're going to have those days that are tough, where you're going to go into a little bit of debt, or you're going to stress or struggle. And then I had really amazing days where I had big wins, where I got, a really good listing, or very good opportunities. And so, yeah, it's been an emotional roller coaster. But we feel now that it's at the point where it's really starting to snowball and start to grow, but not uncontrollably. It's at our pace, and we dictate how quickly the business grows, because a lot of that is dependent on cash flow, as you well know, and cash flow is so key in any business. And when you're doing everything yourself and you don't have any outside investors, it's so important that you make sure that the growth of your business is aligned to your ability to manage your cash flow.
Yeah.
Because I could get a big, massive listing, to, let's say, supply the whole of Checkers all over South Africa. And if I don't have the cash flow to do that, and there's a 90-day payment plan or payment term in place, it could sink my business, literally. And I know a lot of small businesses that have been sunk by some of the big retailers, because they get this opportunity without any maybe cash assistance, and
Yeah.
you think you're going to make it work, but it can be detrimental. So that's something that I've kind of held on to, is that whilst the growth of the business has been slow, it has been steady. It grows year on year, but it's growing so that we can put the right systems in place when it does grow, to make sure that we can accommodate that growth. So that's also
Yeah.
something that I think has been important for us. If we had an investor and millions and millions and millions, then it might be a different story. But because we are a very small family-run business and we do everything in-house, it just takes a little bit longer that way.
Yeah. And I'm so happy to hear that it's in a good place right now, and it's a wonderful story to hear. And I think so many people can learn from your experience of making that decision to go out on your own, which is a very scary thing. Once you do that, there's going to be those ups and downs, and there's going to be those hard times, and there's going to be times perhaps where you've probably doubted and questioned yourself and probably thought, is this even worth it? And those
Mm,
sort of things. You've kept at it because you're so passionate about it. I know you're passionate about this business, and that's it's something that you want to make a success, and you just push through that, and you show that discipline, that consistency. We talk about this. Henry David Thoreau, the famous explorer, said that if one advances confidently in the direction of his dreams and endeavors to live the life that he has imagined, he will meet with success.
mm,
So that's exactly what you've said, is that it won't happen tomorrow, it might not happen the next day, but if you keep on one step at a time, and sometimes those steps are backwards, but you keep moving forward,
mm.
way of your dreams and what you want, you will meet that success one day. And I think
Yeah, for sure.
it's a wonderful lesson, and that's a great takeaway from this discussion. I think my last question to you is then, Jay, do you regret this decision?
No,
Not one bit,
no,
eh?
no, not at all. Never, never for a day. And you know what? Our journey is just starting. In terms of the opportunities and the plans that we have and the things that we would like to launch going forward. So I guess you could say the hard work hasn't even really started in a way. The first couple of years, whilst there was a lot of effort put in to get the business started and up and running, we know that there are much busier and probably more stressful and happy days ahead. But yeah, no, there's absolutely zero regrets from my side. Absolutely not. But I came into this business with the knowledge, skill, and ability to know that I could make it work. So I put in the hard yards working at Arabella. I learned all the business things that I needed to learn that I could adopt and apply to my business, the budgets and forecasting and, all sorts of weird and wonderful things that we need to make sure that we can run a business successfully. I had my school ground application at Arabella, and I'm very grateful for that. And I don't regret Arabella for 1 second either, because had I not have been there, I probably wouldn't be in a position that I'm in today. So no matter what we do, I don't think anything is ever wasted, because we gain and learn experience from all things that we do in life. Whether you look back on it as a negative or positive experience, you've grown through that experience, and that will only help you in anything that you do going forward. So happy.
So true. So,
Yeah,
so true. And, I'm just so happy for you, man. And I'm so proud of you. And it's wonderful to see what you're doing. And obviously, we'll keep in contact, and we'll keep seeing your journey. And I'm just so very proud of you. And I'm so happy for you. But can you also tell us, where can people find you? Where can they follow you on social media? Where can they come if they want to do a tasting with you? How can we get hold of you?
cool. So you can find us. Our distillery and tasting room is located at the West Coast Farm Stall. It's on the West Coast Road. So we are at the turn off to Azefontein, which is probably about 35 minutes from Melkbos and about half an hour before Langebaan. We're right in between. So as you take the West Coast Farm Stall turn off on the left, you'll see the West Coast Farm Stall on the corner. It's a very hot spot. A lot of people stop and grab a pie and stretch their legs. They were known for the birds back in the day, which they still have many rescued birds. And we're located there. So we are open 7 days a week. So you can come through from 11 until 5 in the evening. Open at 11, close at 5, 7 days a week. And you can catch us on Facebook, Instagram. So Facebook is at Wright's Gin, and then Instagram is at Wright's Gin ZA. Although there will be some name changes occurring. It'll go from Wright's Gin to Wright's Distillery, but for now, Wright's Gin. yeah, you don't have to make a booking. You can pop down, you can come and have a chat with us. You can see our distillery, our workings. And the big thing about coming to our distillery is that you arrive as a customer and you leave as a friend. And we've made so many beautiful friends over the few years that we've been at the Putt and even at our previous location prior to that. So yeah, come and find us down there. And we have many home distillers that come down and just want to get advice or want to, maybe get some of our interesting botanicals that we've got and they want to try do something at home. So we are open to chatting to people, even if it's just having a conversation. You don't have to spend money, but come pop down, check it out, and you'll find us there. And also, I
Fantastic.
must
Sorry.
also say I'm equally as proud of you as well with the business that you run in and how you've grown the business over the last couple of years, because there was a time during COVID, I don't know if you remember, that you and I were chatting quite frequently, and you were in Durbs and I was in Cape Town, and I was struggling, you were struggling with not being able to really pursue your business and everything you and your dad had worked so hard to build. And it was a dead time. And I think we leaned on each other and we were so desperate. We were trying online sales marketing and all sorts of weird and wonderful things. But, I look back now and I'm on your podcast and that's super cool. So I also just want to say as proud of you are as me, like equally I am of you. And it doesn't sound quite right, but yeah, I'm very proud of you nonetheless.
I get the gist. Thanks, man. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. Appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
very
it's
proud.
as you said, there's all parts of the journey that we learn from, we gain experience from. Nothing's ever a waste of time. As you said,
Mm,
we learn from these things, and all of these things have just contributed to what I do in the business going forward, and not just the business, but in my life in general, moving forward.
mm.
So just grateful for all those experiences and that we were able to get out on the other side
Yep.
relatively unscathed. I don't think anyone got out of it unscathed, but there
Yeah.
were many people that weren't able to get out of it on the other side. So we're very grateful for that. So, but Jay, thank you so much for your time, bud. I really appreciate it. I'm
Awesome to
sure
see
we'll
you.
chat soon again
Absolutely.
ourselves, but we'll put all those details that Jason shared with us in the caption and the bio for this video and for this podcast. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please share it with your friends, share it with anyone that you feel that could benefit from us. Like and share it on the whatever platform you listen to podcasts or where you watch podcasts on. And we'll check you next time in the next episode of the Mindset X Factor podcast. Thanks so much.